I thought I'd started it. I must have shut it down. Okay. Sorry. Okay. All right. So it is being recorded. I look a lot like him. And my dad is still with us. He's going to turn 92 this year. So he is 91. Okay. So, all right. And so I'll go find this picture. Actually, we're here. I'll do it now. Okay. So let me see if I can find it and open it in, wow, that's amazing. In Photoshop.
Doctor, since we talked about the recording, I cannot access the recorded classes before. Like, it asks me for a password and I don't know how to enter.
I thought as long as you could get into Blackboard, I'll check that in a minute. Wait, eBay, let's see. There it is. Okay. Okay. So here, if we wanted, we could switch it to vertical, but let me just take this out. And now I can look there. Wait a minute, I don't know what. There we go, okay. I go here, and if I go inside, you can see I get the third lines. Now, I like the proportion of it, so let me just do it to the right proportion, 1.41 to 1. And now I'm going to use this line as a guide. And I can potentially center her along that line because there are interesting things behind her. But now, when I crop it, sorry, screwed up. Okay, so I put her eyes right on that line. Got enough room there. Now, I feel more comfortable looking at that image. It is more dynamic. Now, the fact that she's looking straight at us means that we can potentially put her in the middle, horizontally. Okay, so if we look there, so we put her directly in the middle. And you really cannot look away from her. You're on it. As you look at her eyes, you're also seeing the playground equipment behind her that's out of focus. Once again, depth of field. The fact that she's in focus in the foreground and the playground equipment toward the beach, you don't even particularly know that it's a beach, is out of focus in the background. Now, if we chose to, we could actually add a bit more of a dynamic to it. So I'm going to pull down to her eyes there, and then I'm going to move her because I've got the space, and I'm looking at the other features. And now what you've got, if we compare it to what we just did, and if you think about how your eyes are moving, as a viewer, when I put her here and put basically like a target right between her eyes, okay, I've gone a little too far. So I put it there, which is right near that eye. Now, I'm drawn to this line, but then I always come back. Are you guys seeing that? So this is actually, even though she's looking at it directly at us, makes the picture that little bit more dynamic. Okay? Because you want people to look around the entire frame. And you want people's eyes to be moved, to be drawn to other things. And in fact, if I wanted to put text here or something like that, I've created that space, but I do know what the dominant thing is. Okay, so hopefully you guys see that it is about restructuring the thirds. Okay, so we'll come back here. All right, so there she's too centered. Okay, here is sort of splitting between, I'm going to skip that and move on. Okay, so now here's another example of not using thirds. This is a fantastic photograph that Rochelle took. But what happens is, okay, and what makes it a great photograph is the lighting. This is virtually unretouched. But what happens is, and I do think I need to change this color to something. I could just make it white, okay? Is this, okay, you can't see it at all. That's part of my problem. We'll go pink, we'll make it more solid, okay? Is that this space behind him is wasted space. Okay, the photograph is really is at his face and with the smoke. And when we have this space at the back, it provides no additional information, and actually it's distracting when your eyes move. In this case, you keep moving over into this space wondering what's going to happen, what's going to come into the frame. So I can go back over to Photoshop again. I should be able to find this, I hope. Okay. There we go. All right, that's when it's been adjusted. There it is. Okay. So there's that image. Obviously, it can use some dust and scratch removal and things like that. But there's a whole bunch of adjustments that can be made. But I like having this picture raw. So we go here. We're using the 1.41. And if I start to bring it in, because what I want to do, what I really want to do, okay, because he's looking to the left, I want to put his eyes on this horizontal third, but I also want them to be on the right-hand third, this one right here, so that he has space to look into, because he's looking directly across, he's looking straight across. So what we want to create is space so that when we look at his eyes are going to direct us in this way. But we also don't want to lose the smoke. So, but we can take a look at what happens. And now, instead of looking behind him, we're looking at him and then looking off to the side. Actually, I could make it tighter, but the smoke is what's really quite beautiful, and I don't want to lose all of that. So I am having a tendency to leave it I mean, with this, we could maybe move it up a little bit. We could give him a little more room this way, but we can make it smaller and give him a little less on the crop, and then see his eyes there. And that is a tobacco cigarette, by the way. It's just rolled in newspaper. So now we're wondering, what is he looking off to? We get the character of the smoke, and in spite of the dust and scratches, this is an old picture, and it was badly scanned a long time ago. So hopefully you guys see that now we follow his eyes to this space, and then we come back again. We follow his eyes to this space, and there's no lost space in the image. Once again, because of depth of field, he's in focus in the front. The bushes in the back are out of focus. It separates him, the figure in the foreground, from the background. So that's why you do things like you can isolate parts of an image if you didn't shoot it that way, and you can take the background, and Photoshop actually has a lot of tools that you can blur parts of that. So I'll push forward with this so you can see. Now this is a case where actually his eyes are about right. So that he's a kind of a 3/4, and if we go back and see, that's fine. He's moving closer to the center. He's looking toward us a little bit more, but where he's clearly looking, as I had that arrow in there, is he's looking, he creates a diagonal interest because that's how he's looking. Okay, so, yeah.
So we've been talking about people and where they're looking at, but what about pictures without people? The only one we talked at is the one that we needed to focus on that area more than the front area. So in pictures where there are no people, there is no eyes. So there is no direction. So how do I want to center it usually?
So you want to think about what's the most important object. I just showed you the Louvre one, and you put the most important objects on the third lines. That's what I'm saying. So trust me, I take a lot of pictures of non-people, and we can look at one or two. I take a lot of pictures of non-people, and they're not nearly as interesting as pictures of people. So I will, so there, okay, this is another example on the thirds. This is motion. Moving forward, it would be better if he was back farther, had room to move. Okay, so, all right, so this is an example of one of those kinds of pictures that you're talking about. So this picture would be optimal, and obviously it's been manipulated in things. It's from the 1980s. Would be a better picture if we looked at the thirds, if this intersection was farther over. But what's also going on, another important part of composition, is the graphic lines telling us where to look. And in this particular picture, there's actually no indication of turning. There's just lines in these two directions. So those lines draw us. Those are the lines that set up the space. If this was over on the third, then it would be a stronger image. Let's just see. Just to see. Let's see. doesn't want to access my calendar. Okay. No, that's different.
Doctor,
Yes.
for my image, the one at Kyoto with the golden temple, I feel like
Okay,
there's
yeah.
so, yeah, I feel there's so much going on in that picture, and like, where do I want to put the crossing lines? At the temple itself, or make the
Yeah, I
temple?
think the temple should be probably on the top third and should be to the right, as I remember it.
So the temple should not be at the center, should be at the right.
Yes, I meant it'll make it more interesting. And it will create spaces in what you're right is a pretty busy picture, and it'll make it possible for you to compose it better. You see, I'm not sure I can find that one. Wait. Um,
Now, doctor, this is the rule of thirds along with the framing, right? The way of framing.
along with what?
Framing.
Sorry, what's the other word you just said?
I'll type it in the chat.
Okay.
That's why it's better for us to open the grid lines while taking the picture in the camera, right?
Yeah, it's better if you shoot it that way originally, because then you get all the images. Yeah, framing, yes. When you, what you're doing it, okay, so what I'm not gonna find that picture. No, there, is that it? No. All right, but this
Yes.
actually is an interesting one. So I'll open it for later.
So we let the object, whatever, it's a human or an object, and intersect the two lines, the horizontal and vertical, as what you're doing in here, right?
Yeah, what you want that, what you want is in that particular picture, is it would be stronger if this intersection was there. Okay, but I have to say I was in a helicopter. I wasn't feeling that good. I shot video. It made me a little bit motion sick, and I just saw this cool picture and took it. But it would be stronger if that intersection was actually on any of these, and probably in terms of what's the most interesting quadrant here is actually this one, because there's hay bales there and you can see the line. So probably it being here would give this part of the image more space. And I know that it's way over filtered here. That's why I hate filters. But each of the four is also naturally different colors. So that makes it interesting to me as well. This one's more gold, this one's more dirt, this is dark dirt, and that's a meadow kind of thing where it's just grass growing. But pulling this down and to there, and also it gives a chance for this telephone pole to be more of a factor. So when you frame, when you shoot a picture, you should try to see the thirds. And in fact, on my SLR, I can turn on, in my viewfinder, it's an icon, I can turn on thirds lines, and it will show it to me as I'm looking at the picture. Okay, there is a feature that you can turn on those lines. What I'm talking about now is even if you don't shoot a picture that way, you can alter it. You can then reframe it in Photoshop. And that's why you always want the biggest possible, the deepest possible image, so that if you go, wow, there's so much I like about that picture, but I didn't compose it right, you can then reframe it in Photoshop. If you shoot a perfect picture with everything in focus, and if there's aspects of it you don't like, you can probably fix it in Photoshop. If you shoot a picture that's out of focus, you can't fix it. If you shoot a picture that's just the focus is wrong and those sorts of things, you can't fix it. And if you start with a picture that is well composed and all those things, it's even easier to fix it, okay? So don't always, there's a thing used to be in video and film, they'd say, oh, we'll fix it in post-production. That's what Photoshop is for photographers, and you can't always fix it. So that's kind of what this is. I'm sure I have this slide, it's actually on a slide, and I need to rescan it, and I need to scan it deeper, and then I can manipulate it, and it'll make me much happier. But have to show that they're imperfect. So hopefully that's kind of an answer to that question. Okay, so also, even here, in something that really doesn't appear to have lines, there are graphic lines. This is where the Z-axis is drawing us down into the tunnel. And even though, okay, we look here, you look here, these are graphic vectors that draw us into the image. This one would also, if it had the third, so this one is really just drawing us into the center of the image. But I got to say, since I was driving, when I took the picture, probably didn't have as much time to focus as you want to have because I wanted to stay alive while I was driving. So, and I do take pictures like that. I used to when I was young and didn't have children. Okay, but this picture would also be stronger if, I'll just see if I can find it, because maybe I can't, maybe I can. There it is. I've got it. Because it's Mobile, Alabama. If I took the thirds and if I made it smaller, the scan's not really deep enough. Well, it might be, but there's not enough focus in it. So now, if I bring it down into this area, do you feel being drawn into it more? I hope you do. Okay, I hope you do.
Do we feel
me,
what?
Huh?
Do we feel what?
Before was
that you're
better.
being drawn into it more. So here,
Yes.
I don't.
I feel like it's a pretty cool picture, but here, it's like I have to
like
work.
the white space. The white space doesn't give you the, like, it's not a leading picture in here. Otherwise, the other one, it is a leading picture.
Because now, boom, I'm going straight into it. And in fact, if I undo it, if I do
I
it the
feel
other
the opposite,
way,
the complete opposite.
if I do it the other way, it can even work because I'm getting less of the black. So the key here is that on this intersection is to put my point. So see, for me, because I read left to right, this is a little harder to do. There's more effort going this way. I prefer it on the other side. Since you guys read Arabic, this might be totally fine for you. Do you see what I'm saying? So you're used to starting on the right-hand edge and reading to the left, because I do also believe we read pictures the way we read images, pictures, the same way we read words. So my tendency is left to right, so I'm more comfortable being taken into this image on this side. So I've put the third right there in the target. And to me, bam, I'm going, this white space then leads me straight in. You guys, because you can read and write in both languages, you might be fine with either direction. This is a much stronger picture. Okay, so I'll press on. Let me just close it so I don't wreck it, because I haven't, it didn't look like I don't have a copy of it. I mean, all right, let's proceed. I think this picture is about to show up. Okay, yeah, there it is. Okay, here, there's a whole lot of lines going on. And once again, this is a very powerful graphic vector because it continues, takes you all the way up to this fence line, okay, and the tree line. But because it's in the center, the things on the sides go kind of bleh. So the reason I left that other picture up is that if I put this in here, and we'll zoom it in a little more. And if I put I'll put that road right on that line. Let me see. And if I get this horizon line, which with the fence line becomes a very distinct line in the distance. I've reduced, you can see the hills. This is kind of leading me away. I actually don't like that side on this picture. So, because it's tilting to me somehow. So if I do it, and we'll shrink it, whoops, I'll shrink it down and move it this way. See, I don't have as much room here to move it as far as I need it. But I don't have to see the top of the mountains. But I'm not going to get much else. See there, I've in my mind, I've done kind of a bad thing because I haven't composed it right. Here we go. This will give me something. Yeah, actually, I don't think this picture is completely repairable, but now we have even the whole road, the whole dirt road here kind of opens up right here. It draws us into the picture. We go across the tree line. We come back to the empty space, and then we're being drawn around the circle. But we do kind of wonder what's going on up here. So it doesn't always work because the picture, but all those lines are operating. There's these horizontals. There's this on the z-axis drawing us in to this picture. Then there's also vectors based on where eyes are looking and things like that. Sorry, it's people again. But where Cecilia's looking down, Rochelle's looking down, in fact, Rochelle's pointing. Okay, so though all those vectors tell us that our point of focus is down in this spot, and you can't help but look there. They've drawn you there. Now, that applies. So here, shooting pool, same thing. This is one of my favorite pictures that I've ever made. There's the guy who's looking at us. Okay, that's reasonably nice on the third. He's pointing this way. It's like old 50s. I like the way it looks. I shot this in 1981. He's pointing this way, but then the car with a motion vector, so he's pointing, but the car is driving this way and brings us back. So we kind of move back and forth on the image. So in blue, I have an index vector that's pointing us here. We look for something. There's the car. It draws us back. We're back into the sign. And also, the key is this is on the right-hand side, the right-hand third, and draws us there. So he's looking at us. We're also, even in a sign, we're drawn to the eyes. And I have, okay, this is a motion vector. So the horse moving across, we follow the horse moving across. Motion vector with the bus. And honestly, I've got another version of this picture. Without the bus, it's just stagnant. It's not nearly as interesting. There's the motion. We can see where she's going, and a little bit of that's blur, a little bit of that's fill flash. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about the angle of view so much. But you can see that the strongest ones in these pictures, that's La Pedrera again. This is the one I always like to tell the funny story, because her mom's from Taiwan and her dad's from Hong Kong. And my students in Hong Kong said, oh, she's mixed. Okay, Barum Chi. It's all a matter of perspective. And this is one where the eyes, this one throws you off. Her eyes are dead center. It would be better tilted down more, but the goggles almost create a second set of eyes. So looking eye level at things, but this is, you can see the composition is in operation. Looking up, the torch is here, and we have a diagonal down to the plate with the poem on it. Okay, looking up the side of the building, that's from Titanic, and the camera's looking down at her. Never, okay, so these are just angles based on that. It's a lot of video things. Even here, looking up into the sky, this is from that same time. It's a little hard for you to notice the shadow of the Empire State Building, but you're kind of wandering around. And it would be more evident if it was over here. That could be reframed to say that line is very important. Even though it's centered, you're quickly drawn away from it. Now this is one where we have the eyes, we have the angles, and what you also see in it is the idea of figure and ground. The background can't move. And what makes this, part of it, is the diagonal between Lula and the horse. If you know much about horses, this has you a little nervous. This didn't turn out into anything, but a couple of years later, he did try to mess with her. And so you look here, so that diagonal is very strong, but it's also the fact that both she and he have the opportunity to move. So they are figures within the space. Okay, and there's that opportunity of movement. But the diagonal, even though the two of them are pretty much centered in that space, there's a lot of dynamism between them, and you can have that wider shot because it sets the context. But once again, probably if it was moved over here, it could have a little more strength. Okay, 71, 72. All right, okay, so let me show you this stuff in practice, because I did think about talking about where the objects were and where the words were, and with this composition. So I was making the demo poster, and all right, so okay. So this is the one we were working on. I think some of the problem was I don't really, and the assignment doesn't call for you to put two logos. I only really need the one. Okay, so that's the Louvre, Abu Dhabi. Okay, so I moved it and I started playing with the text. So I made the top text, experience the art of a Saadiyat Island sunset. And I still like that because it's an art museum. And then I took the See Humanity, so I took to heart the notion of it being a subtext. And I did this much more modern font that I like very much. And then I moved the Louvre off the back. I moved it in a space where you could see it without that additional. I did try putting it here on the side of the building and even then on the bottom. Okay, I think some of you in the examples you've done or what you've sent me, your words are too big. Because even this, if we look at that, where is it? Okay, properties. Okay, that is a 56-point font. So even though it looks small, potentially on your screen, that is big. That is very readable. Okay, and it does not have to be gigantic. Because even down here, these guys, that's 18 point. When you write a paper, you write it in 12 points. That's 1.5 that size. And these don't need to dominate anyway. And actually, I made it wide, and I was looking at it, and when I came up with this, when I found this font, and then obviously I used the colors, I'm thinking, I like this more, but I still don't like it. And so, and I did notice a lot of you have taken like these handwritten scripts, and you don't have to do that. And it depends if it works or not. And as I looked at this, the lines are very clean. If you look at the Louvre Abu Dhabi logo, how they write the name Louvre is with a very modern font, no serifs, it's none of this, doesn't look like anybody's handwriting. And so I decided to make another version. And I took it and actually, I like this very much. This is actually one of those fonts I bought because I really like it. It's called Artegra. But there, this now ties in better with that font and the logo, and then it ties in. These are actually all in the same font. So it doesn't have to be a crazy number of fonts. Even if I go back to that one, just having the one draws some focus to it. I think I have one more. Is that one where I use the other script, which I think is probably better, but still, once I did this one, I think this would be my final choice because it matches the cleanness. Now, I still had a problem with this. This wasn't working for me because of the notice, because I really do hate centering, and I really do hate centering in every way. So I don't like that the picture is centered. So without doing all of the fancy, without doing all of the fancy picture adjustment, I took the modern, I reshaped this picture. Okay, I don't have the same colors, but I feel better with this image. And if I took the time to do the fancy colors, see, this is, the yellow's actually working for me, but I could get all those colors back. But this gives a solid foundation at the bottom. Then I know that this is the emphasis coming from the roof and see humanity in a new light. It's about the light. And we don't have that wasted dark space at the bottom. And then I also took this one and experimented with the script. So there's that script. And there's that one. And actually, because I'm happier with the photo, I could see a variation. Probably the two I like best, okay, is I definitely like the modern one. So that's the one I like best, because what also happens is This is extremely readable. It is very easy to read. And that is very important in a font, okay? Is not how big and huge it is, but can I read it in the size it is? Because even this one, if we look at it, this is 24. This is a 24 pixel. It's a 24-point font. That is large, okay? Even on the A3. So you don't have to have the giant stuff. It doesn't have to follow all the lines. But what happens is when I look at this one, okay, I see a problem because this is so easy to read. And this is less easy to read. So when I change to this, and it is very nice to me, it's the right weight. I've got a lot of different weights and things I could do with it. I can make it thicker, thinner, but it made this less noticeable because we go to the thing that's easy to read. Even when I go to the one that I think is a bit more, that's actually photographer signature, I really like it. But having this in proximity with it, do you see that it becomes harder to look up at this and work through it? This is what you see humanity in a new light. Might not be wrong. Louvre might like it. But that's the thing about fonts, is readability. Don't make them too big. Here, this works really well because we still get the whole sunset, and there makes the Louvre Abu Dhabi pop, and it sort of ties in with the darkness. Then the lightness at the bottom, we notice it. And then we go back up, and we can go up and down, and we see all those pieces. This is a much stronger poster compositionally in terms of the photograph. And let's just go, we'll go modern to modern. Okay, if I go this one, okay, those both lines, very easy to read. This is actually, I think it's a, let me see. Okay, that's extra light, and that's regular. So this bottom one is actually thicker. It's a heavier font than this one, but this one's so large that it takes on that substance. If I made it, if I've got a bazillion different, see, it could, this is the different weights, could be extra bold, there's, we could be italic, we could go, okay, we could go extra, ooh, see, that might work, extra light italic. And that is because I have bought a full font, that I have all those settings. So on things like Helvetica and different ones, you will have a huge variety of possible ways to look at it. It could be extra bold italic, bold, so you can see it takes on different weights. And italic means it leans. Okay, it's a medium and regular. Let me see, regular. Are basically the same. We could go light. Extra light just seems to be working. It doesn't look that thin, but extra light italic I like. So if I go from this one to one where the text is similar, so the demo poster modern, and I go extra light italic, even there. What happens is, when I look at this, I'm looking at half a poster. This whole space is completely wasted. I hope you guys are seeing that. That when I switch back, okay, so I'm just going to close these other ones so I can easily. Okay. So that's the one. Close that. There it is. There they are. It's the two of them. that if that there, this space is now wasted. When I go here, boom, I'm closer into the Louvre itself. It's now emphasizing the light, and I am so much more comfortable with this image. Okay, the one thing is another way to deal with things that are too busy that you've mentioned is in Photoshop. Okay, so this one has no depth. Okay, if I'm just going to do it in a primitive way. All right, I'm going to take this. I can, in effect, so I'll use that line. So there's a line here that's a road down there. Let's see. Okay, I didn't get any feathers, so I want to have some feather. So I am going to make the feather 10 pixels, and I'm going to do it again. Going to go along that road. It won't be exactly right. All right, so now I have some feather. I'm going to go to filter. I'm going to look at blurs. So I'm going to do an iris blur, which means it's like depth of field. Oh no.
Doctor, I have a question.
Yeah.
That's way not related to this right now.
It's what?
Not related to this right now. I have a question about the logos, the Abu Dhabi logo or the place logo. You've once stated that it's not good to change the colors or something. Of what logo is that implemented? In which one? In Abu Dhabi or the place?
In
You got
any
my
logo,
question?
because it's basically in any kind of logo.
I cannot hear you.
You can't hear me?
Yeah,
So
now I can.
Oh,
Yes.
it's really any kind of logo. Because if it's one that's just been kind of thrown out there, it's pretty much okay. But if it's a logo that is well established, don't mess with it because that's their identity, and the identity.
So I cannot change the color. So I cannot change the color of Louvre vector.
Okay. Obviously, I'm having a problem with that because I understand the question, and I can ask about it because I'm in contact with Miriam Al-Dakhri, who works there, because it seems a little logical that it could be black or white, right?
Yeah, I
But
put it as
you
white,
could
but
apply a color to it because it's all sort of minimal and all that. But I didn't see that it's ever been used that way, but I could ask. So.
And what about like the Ittihad Museum has their logo in a red background and their vector are white. So can I change it to black at least? So their logo is
Well,
about,
see, you
it's
should
not
have
the
told me
vector.
because I don't know what their logo looks like. So you could check and see, but yeah, I wouldn't. As
You
long
wouldn't
as you,
recommend.
that part I'm not as worried about. If something's blue and green, leave it blue and green. You have to ask the thing is, does it change the character of the logo? With Louvre, yeah, it kind of does. But, going from black to white, but you definitely wouldn't add a color. Black to white's not a huge thing. But the other one, maybe not. It's basically, it's their logo, it's their identity, it's their trademark. So,
Okay. So as a copyright, it's not good to change it.
yeah, it's trademark.
Yeah, okay.
So, and yeah, once they've established it and they've paid big money for it. So here you can see, wait, I can mix it. That's kind of weird. I could blur it more or less, but that's not very natural. Whereas if I just blur it a little bit and I say, okay, and I deselect. See, do you see how that's altered the picture? If you want to create some more focus, you can take some of it. So now I'm looking more even up close. So even though it was a perfect sunny day and I had a lot of depth of field, now, and because I did it along an existing line out there, you could, I probably should blur this spot right here as well. It would help. So I could go there, and I could go filter, I could go blur gallery again, and it's blurring it, and I would deselect it. And because this drop off, see, that's kind of a natural looking blur. I could see what else I should blur, but it then starts to separate the space as well. So you can use blur, you can blur an area if you want to put text over it. You could actually blur an area on the image and not even have to do the white background. So I think what I want you guys to do, because we're doing the draft presentation on Wednesday, I want you guys to decide what you like, then show it in draft presentation. Everybody's going to do a little presentation. I'm going to ask you questions. Your classmates might ask you questions, and then you can make adjustments between Wednesday and the following Sunday. You get that? So we will use that draft time to give opinions. So if you want to have a couple of versions, great. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be the person who picks your picture. You need to develop the judgment that, yes, I would pitch this forward. So since the draft is a draft and it's a pitch and it's a sort of a pre-pitch, I can then give my opinion. Other students do seem to have opinions. You can give opinions on each other's thing, and you see what I mean? So I'm probably going to ignore you asking me which one should I well, I will ignore you asking me which one should I choose. But I will make this recording available as soon as possible. Okay, so all right, so that obviously we're out of time. I hope this has helped a little bit in composition. If you want to ask me questions about fonts, I will answer questions about fonts. Don't ask me which one should I choose. I can talk to you more because we haven't spent a lot of time with fonts. If you want to ask me about a phrase you've written, but we can also do that in the draft. I have no problem. We can do that in the draft, and you'll have a few days to work on it. Okay? I will do attendance. Don't worry about it today. No problem. Thanks, guys.
Discussion?
No, I think I want you guys to work on your thing and finish.
Okay.
What I will do also is I will reopen the one discussion, and let me check the discussions that might help you, and I will open it so everybody can look at it and you can see my different comments about, yeah, because you guys did posters with cool phrases, right? So I need to give you some response to those. I'll do that. And that might help you thinking about your font. And I will post my new post. I will post the finished one and the options. And I've even got some demonstrations of some others I've composed. You don't have to totally be locked into the full picture. You can put it in a frame. I haven't had anybody ask me about that. Or you can have a block of color to one side, top, bottom, etc. You can have multiple images. Okay, so what you show in draft, I might have suggestions. If you got a truckload of pictures you're like, and they're all from the same place, city, place, You could even work that way if you would like. All right, that's it. And you will do draft presentations on Wednesday. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Have a nice day, doctor.
Hey, you too.
Have a great day, Doctor. Bye.